Andrew Melton, Wisbech Monitor Farmer. We stand here in a field which is destined for winter wheat this autumn. We've had a little bit of rain at the moment, but in here we've got a trial with looking at plough-based versus shallow tillage, and also including some catch crops in the scenario as well, and also with some residual straw and without. We're here today just looking to see how the trial's coming along, looking at the soil texture, looking at the water retention in the soils, and hoping to be able to drill it in the next few days.
What are you hoping to find out by doing this trial?
We're hoping to see whether we can change our machinery techniques, and establishment techniques, cultivation techniques, from generally from a plough-based system to a shallow or even a no-till strategy in the future.
And how do you think you're going to drill this field?
I'm hoping to drill this field with a John Deere 750A. We also run a Vadestat Rapide for the plough-based system, and we're just going to run the 750A alongside the Vadestat in the future.
Hi there, it's Philip Wright. We're here at the Wisbech Monitor Farm, AHDB Monitor Farm. Clive and Andrew Melton's. We're looking at primarily soil structure. Clive's set up a trial here, various different treatments. We're currently in the more conventional treatment, ploughed, following harvest, ploughed. Well, it was actually cross-cutter discs, ploughed, and ready for establishing a winter sown cereal crop in due course. So we're just really going to compare the traditional with different treatments with cover crops, and one with just a bare fallow that's been cross-cutted. All the plots were cross-cutter discs for a start. That's a very shallow surface disking. Helps to spread out the chaff, stimulate volunteers, which is a concern this season with the amount of volunteers and drop seed that's around with the weather situation. So very shallow cross cutter, and then either in this one ploughed, and subsequently we'll go through. So in the plough situation here, you can clearly see we've got a very loose structure. Clearly it's just been ploughed, and you can see where we get down to the plough depth, which is about here. We've got straw residue buried at that depth, and then we change very rapidly below there to a much firmer structure, lower in porosity, clearly because it's basically not been moved, and we've got a situation where the moisture levels, when we've checked those, we're fairly consistent in terms of moisture all the way down through to the plough, just above the plough layer, just above that straw layer, and then below there we get very dry, significantly drier, less moisture, because the straw in this plough layer, being in effect a large porosity structure in itself, is not allowing capillary flow of water through past it, because water by capillary flow cannot flow from small pores to large pores. It can only flow from large into small pores because of the capillary rise, the capillary draw, suction if you like. So we've got moisture built up just above that plough layer where it's got its most moisture. We've got straw that's starting to rot down in there, only just starting, and then we've got a very loose structure above, and when you look at the soil as it's come out the hole, you can see we've got very open structure. It's a bodied silt. It's a heavy silt really, or a medium to heavy silt loam is this. Very good soil in fairness, but in this state it's in here is quite prone to recompaction, quite prone to any form of traffic or pressure on top of this will literally close those pores down quite quickly. Okay, so this plot's cross-cutter only, and a bit of natural regeneration, natural regrowth in here, no actual cover. And it's interesting just digging down through here, through the profile. This profile feels quite a lot firmer. You can see I'm having to really squeeze that to get it to break apart, compared to where we were before. It was just breaking and crumbling very nicely. And as we move our way down, we've got a bit of surface crumb with a little bit more volunteer action going on here. There's a bit more surface crumb. But then as we move down, we've got very much less root activity. And if you follow the knife down, you can see here we've got a zone at what was plough depth, which is clearly holding moisture up. Can you see the actual shine on that? That's a lot of moisture in there, where the moisture's been held up in that zone. If we go straight through that and pull that apart, you can see how much drier that is down below there, and there are very much fewer roots. So it's probably as good a sign to show that catch crop has actually done something about this in the previous area, because it's actually been able to get its roots in there and exploit that. That's actually quite firm under there now, and the soil immediately below that shiny surface in this area is quite dry. In actual fact, there's a bit of dust coming off it, you can see, can't you? So from that point of view, we've got a much bigger differential of moisture in here. We haven't got that beneficial root action doing anything at all much, other than where we've got regeneration going on and volunteers. That catch crop has really helped that subsurface structure to open up and become more consistent from a moisture point of view. So this plot's cross-cutter only, and a bit of natural regeneration, natural regrowth in here, no actual cover. And it's interesting just digging down through here, through the profile. This profile feels quite a lot firmer. You can see I'm having to really squeeze that to get it to break apart, compared to where we were before. It was just breaking and crumbling very nicely. And as we move our way down, we've got a bit of surface crumb with a little bit more volunteer action going on here. There's a bit more surface crumb. But then as we move down, we've got very much less root activity. And if you follow the knife down, you can see here we've got a zone at what was plough depth, which is clearly holding moisture up. Can you see the actual shine on that? That's a lot of moisture in there, where the moisture's been held up in that zone. If we go straight through that and pull that apart, you can see how much drier that is down below there, and there are very much fewer roots. So it's probably as good a sign to show that catch crop has actually done something about this in the previous area, because it's actually been able to get its roots in there and exploit that. That's actually quite firm under there now, and the soil immediately below that shiny surface in this area is quite dry. In actual fact, there's a bit of dust coming off it, you can see, can't you? So from that point of view, we've got a much bigger differential of moisture in here. We haven't got that beneficial root action doing anything at all much, other than where we've got regeneration going on and volunteers. That catch crop has really helped that subsurface structure to open up and become more consistent from a moisture point of view. Again, a cross-cutter and maxi catch crop in here. This scenario, they've left all of the straw on. The other scenario with a maxi catch crop, they removed the straw, and they also removed the straw where it was fallow. So this is the only plot where straw's been left on, and you can immediately see more evidence of that straw near the surface. When we start to sort of examine this compared to the maxi catch crop where the straw had been removed, the actual amount of rooting, that's visible rooting, is less in here. It's still got some a good percentage of roots. You can see I'm getting down to a little looser zone here, nearly down to that old plough zone. So we have got roots in here, but there aren't quite as many as we had on certainly significantly fewer visibly compared to where we'd remove the straw. Now the reasons for that might be a number. It might be the fact that the surface straw, when the catch was establishing, was probably starved of a little bit more nitrogen. If there was more straw around, it could be that there was just more straw, slightly less seed to soil contact. There could be a lot of things, but we've certainly got in here fewer roots. We've still got the original plough zone here at depth, but compared to that straw removed maxi catch crop, you can see far fewer roots actually getting in here and starting to stabilize that zone. Below there is very similar to previously. It's quite firm, hasn't been moved for a fair length of time under there, and the soil down there has got some roots again, but not in the same volume or quantity as we saw in that first catch crop area.
As well as Philip's assessment of what the soil structure's been looking like under the different kind of systems, if you like, that we've got here. We've also looked at some other aspects of soil, and so we've looked at moisture content both on the surface and then throughout the soil profile whilst digging the holes. And we can see actually with the ploughing we've got less moisture at the top, and then that increases as we go through the profile, but still quite dry at the bottom, as if we've got a plough pan going on there. And then in the plots here where we haven't got disturbance, we've just got cover crops or fallow, then the soil moisture is reasonably consistent through those soil profiles. We've also looked at shear force, and as you might expect, we have extremely low shear force in the ploughed soil. It's very, very loose indeed, so we've got shear forces of only about 15 kilopascals, whereas we look into more undisturbed plots, particularly where we've got no cover crop plants growing, then we've got much higher shear force values, up to 120 kilopascals, for example. So really big differences there in shear forces. We've also been measuring penetrometer depths, and we'll assess that data. And we've also been looking at infiltration, but our soils here are close to field capacity, and as a result of that, infiltration is very slow, really. So we've just been trying to add some data really to the visual assessments that Philip's been doing.
So here we are in the trial field with a John Deere 750A after a catch crop. Conditions are very suboptimal, and I wouldn't normally be drilling in these conditions, so it's very much a trial. So we'll see how it comes establishment wise. Just talk of heavy rain next week, so we just wanted to get some more in the ground. See how the wheels are travelling fairly well on the drill, and obviously on the tractor with the cover on the top, we're getting quite a good Good afternoon everybody, this is Andrew Melton, East Anglia Monitor Farmer. It's the 1st of February, Monday. I've come back down to the field where we're doing a tryout for direct drilling comparison with plough based drilling, and I'd just like to show this video just to see what's going on in the field as we stand. I can't. As you can see, if we move across, it's not perfect, but it's new to us, this direct drilling into a shallow tillage here with a 750A, and when you get down to it, there's actually not a bad establishment, but we haven't done plant count numbers as yet. We're going to be doing this during the season now. We're getting through into the spring, and we'll see where it goes. can see as we walk across here, this is where the tractor and drill came down. We was a little bit worried earlier on when at establishment that what the surface would end up doing to the establishment with it just running down with the wheel. It has had an effect. It's not ideal considering the conditions. I'm quite surprised really, but they was running about 8 to 9 psi on the tyres. It was just the sort of the capping on the surface because it was well damp at the time. So lesson to be learnt, probably shouldn't have been here. It was just to try out and we'll see what happens. Again, looking out just to the left hand side of the plough base system, again you can see the wheelings from the shallow tillage plots drilled with a 750A due to the damp soil conditions at the time of planting. It's not terrible, but it's not the best establishment, and so you can see what effect the tyres has had on the establishment of the wheat.
So we're back at the Monitor Farm here, Wisbech, Andrew and Sam Melton's farm, and in the autumn we put a number of different kind of treatments, if you like, in here, looking at direct drilling on top of cover crops, on top of a plough based system, and we took a lot of measurements then, saw moisture, penetrometer, all those kind of typical readings, and we're back today and we're just seeing how those different treatments, if you like, are affecting our early growth stages of our winter wheat crop here. And so we found a few interesting things, and we have a couple of examples in front of me here on my right is the plough based system, and we're seeing typically a little bit more growth from our spring wheat, a little bit more coverage and higher plant counts that we've measured. On the left is a direct drill plot after cover crops, but with no ploughing in there, and again we're seeing slightly less plant counts, less coverage, but a higher worm count. So we've got lower worm count here, higher worm count where we've disturbed less soil. But also we found some structural differences as well. Although the soil further down the soil profile is very, very similar, as you can see, between the plough based system and the non-plough based system, what we're finding in the non-plough based system is this kind of almost compacted layer right at the surface of the soil. That's just preventing our plant roots really penetrating further down the soil profile, and I would suggest giving us most of our challenges in terms of plant populations and the early growth stages. And we've also got one or two wheelings that the plough based system has clearly taken out, but particularly from the combine wheeling that the direct drill system is not taken out, and that